Everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to create this designer clipboard. But don't worry, if you don't want to do a clipboard, you could do this on an art journal page or a canvas. This is approximately about a 5 by 7, 6 by 8, so pick the size accordingly. So the first thing we are going to do is block and blend some colors, and I am using bright aqua and quinacridone magenta. I'm applying it to a gessoed surface. That makes the paint blend all this easier, all the more easy. And I know that this bright aqua and magenta, when they combine, they make this beautiful purple tone, and I just love this combination. So if it's something you haven't worked with yet, you may want to give that a try. So I'm just getting good coverage here. I'm not too worried because I know that I'm going to be layering lots of pattern, lots of stencils in upcoming layers. I just want to get some nice color on here. I can come back and add more color. If it's too blendy, if I lose some of that aqua or the pink, I can wait for it to dry and then come back and put more on. Once the acrylic paint's dry, it doesn't blend, and then you can just get the depth of color that you may want. I'm edging the front, and I've put a bulldog clip on the clip part of the clipboard so that I can paint underneath it and that so that it can dry properly. Here I'm just adding a little bit more of that aqua, as I said, because I really want to have both colors represented on here. One side's done, so now I'm going to do the other side. The makeup sponges that I use are just from the dollar store. They are not so porous, open holes. Some of them are very loose. These are fairly rubberized, and I prefer them. So if you buy some that don't work quite like what you want, um, shop around and see if you can find a different one. They're not all created equal. I spray them with Murphy's oil soap when I'm done, and I wash them. So I reuse them multiple times before they start to deteriorate, and then I throw them away. So I'm just getting good coverage here, and then I'm going to let this dry really well before I do the next steps. So now I want to apply some stenciling, and I grab Prussian blue and this rainbow montage stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. I am going to give it some all over pattern. And as you can see, I'm moving the stencil around, layering it up. I'm not even worried about getting it perfectly. This is for backgrounds. I love the swirl pattern of this, the organic feel. It's quickly become one of my very favorites. Speaking of favorites, here's an old favorite, Tile Mania. I just got the 6-inch, I've had the 12-inch, and I'm using the bright aqua. Now, whatever you put first, whatever stenciling you put first, will get knocked back. So if I wanted that rainbow montage motif to be most forward, I would put it last. And that would give a different look. So even though you could use the same 3 stencils, if you do them in a different order, you're going to get a different look. This is another new for fall 2021 Starflower net. And I'm applying white through this stencil. This is really knocking back. I want a lighter background because I want my focal image to be more forward. But you still see the aqua, the navy, or Prussian blue, and the pink shining through. And this kind of layering is something I do a lot on my art journal spreads. So again, just because I'm doing it on a clipboard, I'm making for craft fairs. So I am using my mixed media art journal techniques to make craft fair stuff. You can be making an art journal page or a canvas. If you don't like these colors, pick colors that you like. Take one part of this video, of this tutorial, and go with that. Loving the combination. Now on the back, I'm not going to go as layered. I am simply going to put this rainbow montage stenciling on the back. And I estimated this to be 5 by 7, but I see the 6 by 6 stencil goes right across. So it's 6 by 7 probably. It's a mini clipboard. Just purchased at the dollar store. Actually, it was a leftover from my teaching days. I use these with my students, and I now have repurposed them into designer clipboards. Now, since I have both surfaces going, I want to make sure that my work surface stays clean. I don't want to inadvertently get paint on any backgrounds. Just edging with the dark blue to frame my, although it's not a page, it is a page. I treat it exactly the same as I would if I was doing this in an art journal page. I take off the clip in order to get into those nooks and crannies, but then put it back on and let this dry. Now I'm using the templates from my gnome book kit. This is a digital kit that's available at Ninny's Napkins, and I'll put the link in the description box. It comes with 5 pages of templates, the beards and the different size gnomes, an instruction manual including pictures and a link to a private video tutorial, 12 digital gel prints that you use for the gnome book, and the complete Oh Gnome You Didn't sentiment pack that has, I think, 24 sentiments in there. You can buy this separate without the kit. Anyway, so I'm using a couple of the gnomes from my kit, and I'm just cutting out the template here. Now you can cut this out on tagboard if it's something that you're going to do lots of, but I'm just cutting it out right out of copy paper, and I'm just choosing 2 different sizes. I want a larger one and a smaller gnome. And I can make them taller or shorter depending on the substrate that I'm working on. Now I've gone through my gel prints and I picked this dark blue one and the other one with that has the more pink. Those are colors that are in the background. I was also looking at some bright aqua ones. Now, if you don't have gel prints, you can grab a piece of paper and paint it and do some patterning or stamping on it and make it specific for the project and make it perfect for the background that you've created. A great idea here would be to do this on sticker paper, and then you just have to peel and stick. So I'm saving this with my gnome sentiments. Keep everything together. And now I'm just figuring out the size that I want this and which beard I'm going to use. With the digital kit, you can take this. I've given you multiple sizes, but you can shrink them or blow them up again to further make it fit your project. I'm going to do some of the line work. I'm using a Stabilo all pencil in white. Just adding the nose in there, deciding how big is going to be a hat, and you can go up and down. Make it taller, make it shorter, give it more body, give it more hat. Now I've decided on the height of each of these gnomes, so I'm cutting off the excess. And then I'm drawing the beard on. This is just a rough sketch, guidelines. And then I'm painting the face of the gnome white. I like using an angle brush here. It gets into the nooks and crannies. And I want good opaque coverage. If I don't get it dark, opaque enough coverage, I'll let it dry and come back with a second layer. And yes, you could totally freehand this, but sometimes we want a bit more guide, or we just don't want to think so hard. And I'm showing you a workaround in case that is you. And here I'm just applying that second coat to get more opaque coverage. Making sure that dries, I take the time to stamp out what I'm going to use. And I chose, there is gnome book and take notes in the sentiment pack, but I decided to use my stamps here, and I stamped it out in capitals and small letters, and then I'm deciding on the composition, and I decide I want to go with that one on that side. It seems to fit better. Now that I know where everything's going to go, I grab my TCW gel matte finish and I'm gluing it down. And I put a coat on top and underneath. And I'm overlapping the gnomes because I like the look of that. If you wanted to just put one gnome there, you could. If you had wanted to do a Halloween one, you could put a pumpkin beside the gnome. You can tweak it and personalize it however. I'm drawing in the nose just to get approximate, and now I'm going to paint the beard, and I'm using gray, black, and white, and I'm starting with the darkest colors underneath. This gives me an underpinning, and then I'm going to work up with my liner brush to more pure white, and that's going to give a very layered, feathery, hairy look to it. I'm going past the edge of the gnome and overlapping. To help move the paint or to paint with the liner brush, I often thin the paint just a bit adding a little bit of water. And as I go, you can see that the beard is getting whiter and whiter, but again, you could have a gray beard or a black beard if that's what kind of gnome you want. Just painting out the nose. And adding some shading with pink. And now I'm shading with black around the hat and the clothing and the sides of the gnomes. This is helping the gnome stand out from the background. The background's very busy here. So this is really important. And then I'm edging with the black all the way around. And again, that's just making everything work together. Shading around the nose. And because there's a good coat of matte medium on there, if I make a mistake, I can come back, erase it with a baby wipe, and no problem. Adding a little highlights with white, using the shading technique again. And adding more white hairs now that everything's in place, building up those layers. Like I said, there is a sentiment that you could use from the sentiment pack on the clipboard, but I just chose to change it up a little bit and stamp. I'm pressing, I have that black acrylic paint on the side that I spread with the palette knife. I'm dipping the acrylic stamp in there and then wiping it off with the baby wipe. You always want to get rid of the acrylic paint off your stamps, or your stamps will get built up and you will lose them. There's the back. I'm splattering with black. This hides any imperfections. And then I splatter with silver paint. And I just thin that down with a little bit of water, and I splatter with my fan brush. I also splatter with silver on the front. So there is the finished clipboard. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I give it 2 coats of polyacrylic Minwax varnish. Happy creating!